Hi, and welcome to the 7th edition to the Single Dad's Guide to Fake News. Whether 7 means heaven or not, I'll leave for you to decide. What I do know is it's been another wild week of craziness. Unfortunately, much of the craziness has dealt with people who could no longer deal with the day-to-day happenings of everyday life. And because of that, I can't really write about any of those people because it's just something you can't joke about. What I can say is you should keep coming back here so you don't have to become the next person to do such a disservice to yourself. Because the world is one big toilet bowl and you will get flushed down with all the negative news if you let it. So, welcome back and enjoy the zany outtakes of the Single Dad's Guide to Fake News, Volume 7. Before I get to the greatness of this week's 10 topics, I want to thank those of you who came up with a name for the restaurant formerly known as IHOP. I just can't call it IHOP because it's just too crazy. I will just have to refer to it as the restaurant formerly known as IHOP, like Prince was during those strange symbol years. And there are two things that I never thought I'd say in the same sentence: IHOP and Prince. Instead, I'm going to give a shout out to Julie Day for coming up with a crazy name for IHOP. Okay, maybe it's not quite IHOP, it's I-Hulk, the International House of Lingonberry Crepes. That was just too good to pass up. Just try to forget IHOP thinks we're actually going to believe that they're the International House of Burgers. For the uninitiated, I'm going to welcome you to this strange 7th edition to the International House of Fake News, IHFN. Sounds like a kooky news network, doesn't it? In all seriousness, if you can take anything here written seriously, welcome to the Single Dad's Guide to Fake News. With so many crazy things going on in the world, and with a little bit of the bizarre existing inside my head, including all of the fake food histories, I decided it was high time I got into the fake news business. As such, I take 10 legitimate stories from the week and twist them for my own nefarious purposes. Because we all need to be made aware of flying rattlesnakes. But I don't like to sit here and ramble on about why I do what I do and get to the good stuff. I'm the eat dessert and ask questions later kind of person. Shh, I know it's not healthy. Because it's what we're all here for, right? So without further ado, the guide presents to you the Single Dad's Guide to Fake News, Volume 7. Number 1. Ariana Donut Liquor Grande leaves behind boyfriend with substance abuse problem to date a pothead with a borderline personality disorder. Makes perfect sense in La La Land, right? Leaving aside the boyfriend, who I do actually have quite a bit of sympathy for, what in the world is Ariana Grande thinking? I suppose it shouldn't be a total stretch for the donut-licking, USA-hating American. Maybe she doesn't quite understand the English language, but a pothead is someone who abuses pot, a substance. Regardless of the reasons the person abuses the substance, they are still abusing a substance. And in this case, the man abusing the substance realized he was a pothead at one point and then actually stopped smoking pot. And why does said boyfriend start toking up? Once again, he does it because he was diagnosed with a mental illness, and not taking drugs wasn't helping him. Something like that. I realize marijuana is legal in the state of confusion known as California, but being diagnosed with a mental illness is not a reason to start taking pot. Zoloft, maybe. Pot, not so much. I suppose a psychiatrist could have prescribed pot for the BPD and the lack of having a good time. Leaving aside her new beau's reasons for smoking weed, Miss Grande just stopped dating someone because they had a substance abuse problem. And then she gets diagnosed for PTSD, so she goes back to dating someone with a substance abuse problem. I imagine she is seeing a therapist for PTSD. I'm guessing they didn't prescribe dating a pothead to deal with the PTSD and lack of having a good time. Although we are in La La Land, and after all, so who knows? Number 2. Bitcoin owners are panicked because a Bitcoin pizza is only worth $35 million. Just recently, we passed National Bitcoin Pizza Day, where a whole pizza is worth a whopping $40 million. Or at least that was the value of the Bitcoin paid by the former developer of the product several years ago. Those pizza makers must have retired on that one pizza purchase. But now, with a drop in Bitcoin prices due to some manipulation in other cryptocurrencies, a Bitcoin pizza has dropped to a whole whopping 35 million. I'm sure the pizza company must be devastated. What's really crazy is hearing about some of the reasons behind the loss of value of the currency. Seems to have brought out all of the conspiracy crazies. In a poll of cryptocurrency holders, approximately half believe aliens were responsible for the loss in the value of the currency. But my money is on the fact that they just hate pizza that much. So screw those aliens for not liking one pizza, and let's get that Bitcoin price up again. I am not a holder or representative or holder of Bitcoin or any subsidiary. So I say this because, what the hell? Number 3. Addicts across the globe lose it due to a streaming plague. How many of you are addicts? I know you don't want to admit it, but how many of you have binge watched a whole series on TV one day because of the universal drug better known as Netflix? As I write this now, I have on the series Altered Carbon, which is a pretty awesome series, by the way, binge watching it for the second time. While I keep telling myself I could live without Netflix, I'm not sure how I would feel, or how bad the withdrawal symptoms would be. What I can tell you is the whole planet experienced this addiction withdrawal for several hours this week as the service went down under a worldwide Netflix plague. I would love to hear about the first-hand accounts of your addiction withdrawal. And while we are at it, we should come up with a second NA group, Netflix Anonymous. I'm just glad I wasn't at home during the worldwide disruption, or I might have had to turn off the TV. A frightening moment indeed. Number 4. Superman's dad, a real hazardous husband. Speaking for the third time on a not-so-pleasant Superman subject in the last few weeks, it looks like today we're about to deal with story number 3. Everything comes in threes, or so I'm told. John Schneider, Jonathan Kent in the Smallville series, and Bo Duke of Dukes of Hazzard fame faces jail time for his deadbeat status. Only in this case, it's not a deadbeat dad, but a deadbeat husband. As John's wife of 21 years filed for divorce and was granted alimony, Mr. Schneider seems to have developed a bad habit: not paying alimony. He's racked up bills larger than my student loan debt in short order, over $150,000. The law finally caught up with Bo Duke. Maybe John was just jealous of his Superman co-star, who finally got to try on a supersuit. Or maybe he's wanting to be the next guest star in Orange is the New Black. Regardless, Mr. Schneider will now be fitted for a nice new bright orange suit. Number 5. No Back to the Future 4. That's heavy, Doc. I often ask myself how someone could possibly be fooled by some of the scams that are out there on the internet. In fact, one comedian by the name of James Veach has made a good life of taking on these crazy scam artists with some of the most unbelievable conversations that you can imagine. I've seen him uncover one scam artist after the next, mocking their attempts to take money from him via Western Union, read a giant gummy lizard. And while some of them make wild assertions, like being the wife of Nelson Mandela, they have one major defect in common: their English grammar is atrocious. Whether it's the former English teacher in me or not, I wince every time I read some of these cringe-worthy posts. And I laugh at their lack of imagination, or their overuse of Google Translate. Regardless, they keep trying to convince us of their need for help. They certainly need it for something. And while a recent tweet from a fake Michael J. Fox account may have been a cry for English grammar lessons, it was obviously a scam artist talking about the announcement of a Back to the Future 4 release date. As much as I love the series, I cannot imagine someone falling for such a poorly worded tweet as, "We thought about for many years and we stated shooting last summer, and yet people fell for it in the thousands." It's times like these that make me realize we're doomed. Time to get that time machine running, Doc. I gotta go back in time. Number 6. In a shocking display, Kate Middleton proves she's actually a real mother and not a robot. I know we exist in a world where we venerate all things royal. Maybe for us in the States, we wish we retained a bit of that royalty we lost when we overthrew our own monarch. What were we thinking 250 years ago, I tell you? All the pomp and circumstance which goes with the monarchy leads us to believe they are just a cut above us. But if I hear one more, they're just like us story, I'm going to lose my lunch. And possibly dinner as well. I don't hate the monarchs. I wish them the best, and I want them to be happy and healthy people. But honestly, why should Kate Middleton comforting her child be headline-worthy news? You cannot tell me it's news unless it's new or original. A mother taking care of her child isn't news, even when it's a monarch. Then again, maybe Kate Middleton is just a sophisticated robot. Maybe she greases her joints every night before she goes to bed. It's always possible, right? In other news, the sky is blue, the ocean is deep, and earthquakes happen in California. Number 7. Comic pays fans to leave her own shows. I thought I'd heard everything when told about flying rattlesnakes, but this next story shocked me to my very core. Well, I can't imagine some comics paying to have people come to their shows, desperate and insecure ones, but I repeat myself. Lisa Lampanelli told a fan she would pay him to get the, insert vulgar euphemism here, out of her show. Evidently, she told the audience member she didn't need to work for people. I suppose, in the strictest sense of the word, she doesn't need to work for people. But being a comic, she does need to work for herself, however. Oh, and possibly with people there watching her and connecting to them. Someone should tell her possibly insulting the audience poorly might make sure she won't have to pay the guy to be there the next time. They just won't be there in the first place, nor will anyone else. Number 8. The latest of all hair fads comes to the Windy City. Uncombable hair. As hard as it may be to believe, uncombable hair syndrome is a thing. Seriously. 2 parents from just outside Chicago noticed their child's hair was a bit different, not unlike that of a crazy Cabbage Patch doll. They scoured the web seeking what their child might have, and lo and behold, they found the culprit. Uncontrollable hair syndrome, otherwise known as light socket hair, or Albert Einstein hair. They have just taken this craze to the next level. Pretty soon, it will be a fad, and then all the fashion babies will be wearing their hair just like they stuck a finger in a light bulb socket. How cute! Please, no one suggest their baby put their finger in a light bulb socket. The results won't be pretty, even if you think the hair will be. Number 9. Fashion Nova promotes its line for the utterly confused male. For the male transitioning to becoming a cow, try the cute jogger look. For those who are stuck back in the 70s and love their tracksuit even back then, try out the red and white Life is Good apparel. And if you think everyone in your office just loves your daily memes and they're rolling their eyes at you really just means that they're just kind of tired, purchase the Meme Lord shirt out of a bad 70s sci-fi t-shirt. And if you're really into John Waters and cannot get enough of his raunch classics from the 80s starring Divine, make sure you pick yourself up a pastel and pink flamingo t-shirt. For the rest of the male population, meaning all males except for your Uncle Billy Bob who gets his clothes fourth-hand knockoff, please look away from the horrific men's style fashion coming out of Fashion Nova. I certainly am no fashion guru here. I'll admit it. I would just say I'm the jeans and t-shirt kind of guy. And by the jeans, I mean the kind of guy who actually appreciates wearing his own holes into his jeans and does not have them paid to be pre-holed or whatever look that pre-beat-up jeans is supposed to symbolize. And while I don't want to pick on Nova, I am going to speak a bit of advice to them. Sometimes, in a bid to be cutting edge, you just start trying too hard. You have tried too hard. Maybe rethink some of the looks, or go back to doing just women's clothes, or get ready to have an annual Twitter roast of your forward fashion-thinking looks once a year. It's always good for a nice laugh. And number 10, Kraft makes the perfect Father's Day gift for the Green Bay cheesehead in all of us. I love cheese. Without a doubt, I've been a cheese fan for as long as I can remember. Cheese on its own is the very reason I could never consider becoming a vegan, no matter how good the cheese product tasted. You can just not replicate that sweet taste of this delicious dairy delight. Try saying that 10 times fast. But no matter how good cheese is, utter perfection. And no matter how much I think of my own likeness, egomaniac here, I am a vlogger after all, somehow this cheesy delight takes things just a bit too far. What is this cheesy delight, you might ask? It's a 40-pound block of sharp cheddar cheese carved into the likeness of your dad. I might ask, what in the world are you going to do with that thing? It might be good for a couple of hours before the outer cheese discolored and turned hard, and then moldy. What kind of disease will they think your dad has come into as 2 weeks go by? It's just not a pretty sight. And if you go to the extent of eating your father's cheese likeness, what part of your dad are you going to eat first? And what does that say about you? None of it would be very good, I imagine. So take Nancy Reagan's advice and just say no to this Kraft cheese monstrosity. Your cardiologist will probably thank you as well. Thank you again for coming out to support us in another of our Single Dad's Guide to Fake News episodes, this time Volume 7. I know it's kind of been choppy around here of late, and I plan on getting into a regular schedule and getting our videos out to you once a week, right with a blog post. Thank you for all your support, and keep those great fake news ideas coming. We hope to see you again next week, so until then, try not to let that big bottle of pills on your nightstand look appealing. Bye!